Tiwari. Welcome to my Woman in Leadership and Business podcast for today. We are in the month of PCOS awareness, and so today we are talking to a PCOS positivity coach on PCOS and your mental and emotional health. I also have an exciting announcement, so stay tuned for that. Hello again, everyone. My name is Sreshtha Tiwari. I am an emotional intelligence coach and healer. And what that basically means is I help women in leadership and business build a bridge to their dreams, clearing their path away from all negative emotions, fear, sadness, anxiety, overwhelm, whatever you're feeling, and building a bridge to the you want to be, your higher self, the self that is so excited to just step into your shoes and live the life you were destined to live. So, today, as I mentioned, we are talking about PCOS in respect of mental and emotional health and women in leadership and business. And I'm very excited to welcome Yashi Carrington, who is a coach. Yashi is a wife and mom of one. She holds a BSc in Chemical and Process Engineering and an MSc in Environmental Science and Management. In 2019, she started the Mind of Yash blog and quickly realized that she can use her own journey with her polycystic ovarian syndrome diagnosis and this platform to help others like her. She coordinated and hosted a virtual Persevering with PCOS Summit in 2021 with over 30 top speakers and experts, and is now using her training as a certified wholeness strategist and coach to help other women with PCOS and other hormonal and autoimmune conditions learn how to live their best lives despite their diagnosis. This is bolstered by her being a Zumba instructor, a Strong Nation instructor, and a member of the Advisory Council of the Caribbean Coalition for Maternal and Reproductive Health. So welcome, Yash. I call her Yash. How are you doing today?
Thank you so much, Shrey. I'm good today. How are you?
I am great, and I'm so excited to have you, especially as we are in the month of PCOS awareness and you being a PCOS positivity coach, to
Yes.
share with us, with our audience, sorry, on PCOS. So let's just start with what exactly is PCOS for those who may not know.
Sure. So, polycystic ovarian syndrome, also known as PCOS or PCOS, as Trish says as well, is a syndrome that affects somebody who has been born with a uterus, their metabolic, reproductive, and also hormonal systems. So, usually, when you've heard of this in the past, the first thing they tell you is that okay, you probably are going to have some issues or difficulties with having a child, which can be true for some persons. But what we have learned over the years is that it is way more complex than that. It has effects in terms of your metabolism. It has in terms of your hormone levels, and many other mental and emotional things as well attached to it. And usually, somebody who is diagnosed with PCOS, they look for two out of the three criteria. They call it the Rotterdam criteria. And one is if you have irregular periods. So that could mean that it could be coming way too much, way too heavily, or you may be missing periods for months at a time. It also means the second criteria is that you have excess androgens, and usually you see that in other physical factors where you might have male pattern baldness, you might have excess hair in the male areas like of your upper lip, your chin, your chest, and these things. And the third thing, of course, is if you have cysts on your ovaries. But despite the name, there is not always that you would have cysts on your ovaries. But once they see two of those three criteria, they tend to diagnose you as having PCOS.
Wow, it sounds like a heavy mental and emotional path because that's my thing. I mean, when you talk about the possibility of maybe not having children, which is a very, a very sensitive thing for me. As you know, that is something I had struggled with. I don't have PCOS, or even the hormone balance issues, or having hair in places where it should not be,
Mhm.
and
Right.
having to do things that a guy may do, like shave, or to get rid of the hair. It, as a wanting to present your best self to the world, and having media tell you what that looks like, and magazines tell you what that look like, and then have to struggle with a diagnosis that kind of puts you in a position where maybe you have to work extra hard to be and function as you want. As a person going through something like that, how did you deal with how it affected you mentally and emotionally?
Well, Trish, to be honest, you hit a lot of things, you nailed a lot of things. You hit the nail on the head with a lot of things you shared just now. And at first, I really didn't deal with it. I didn't know how to deal with it because when I was diagnosed, I was just 18 years old. I had no idea what this condition was. Basically, the main thing I would have been told is, of course, you'd have difficulty bearing a child. And I was put on the birth control pill to regulate my cycle, and something called metformin, which is usually given to diabetics, because women, people diagnosed with PCOS tend to have insulin resistance, so they can develop diabetes. And at the time, I didn't understand how it would affect my life because I was just 18. So thinking about children was way in the future. So I didn't really, at the time, it didn't really bother me. But then as time went along, I started to see changes in my body. Could have been from the birth control pill, could have been from the from PCOS itself. I started putting on weight. It became very difficult to keep the weight off. And then I would see the other signs, the excess hair. Well, actually, I think I would have seen that from before, but it became more real. It's like, okay, this is something that is happening. And as you were saying, we have these certain expectations and standards for what makes a woman beautiful, what makes a woman, and basically PCOS fights against everything like that. You don't feel as feminine as you think you're supposed to be feeling. You have all these extra things to think about. You're always wondering if people are seeing, where the excess hair is, or seeing your hair falling out. Like, it has so many things to it that over time it really started getting to me, to the point where it was even affecting my relationship with my husband, because when we started to think about, well, he was my boyfriend at the time still, but then when we started to think about, okay, progressing the relationship and wanting to have a child within the relationship, it really started taking a toll on me. I would push him away. I had bouts of anxiety. I had bouts of depression. Even in high school, I had a particular bout of depression that I didn't know where it came from. I was very aware of it, but I didn't know where it came from. And when I look back now, I realized, okay, this had something to do with it. I just didn't understand it. And honestly, I only started trying to deal with it when I had my daughter in 2018, because I realized that it is a syndrome that has a genetic factor, even though there's still a lot more studies that needs to be done on it and what causes it. um, and I just didn't want her. First of all, I'm praying that she would not be affected with this, but I wanted her to be able to have the tools to deal with it if she did, and even more so if she had to deal with it, that she would have confidence in herself and basically not go through the things that I did. And I realized that that meant that I had to learn how to do these things because I couldn't teach her if I didn't know myself. So that is kind of a nutshell of how it was. So it's been a long process. So I said I was diagnosed when I was 18. I'm 35 now, and I really only started really trying to deal with it 4 years ago. So it took some time.
Yeah, but it's so wonderful how you describe your journey. And I know maybe you may not use the term wonderful, but what I try to help women to understand is our struggles. The thing that we are really struggling with is our innate gift to the world. And sometimes you need some form of catalyst to help you to understand, wait, this is really what I need to do. In your case, and this is, of course, just my opinion, it may have been your daughter. And all of that, I mean, from 18 to 34, and the things you have accomplished in a short space of time, 4 years, when you have decided that you're going to spread awareness in respect of PCOS and really look at different ways in which you can treat or live with the diagnosis, this led you to becoming a PCOS positivity coach. So tell us a little bit about that and what you do in that role.
So, so yes, so it's a term that I took upon myself because what I realized over my journey is that persons always comment on my positivity. Even before I was very vocal about my struggles with PCOS, and even more so when I started being a little bit more open about it, they would always ask me, how do you stay so positive on these things? And it really just had a nice ring to it because for me in my journey, what it has been about is about persevering and it's about building that resilience. And I didn't want people to think it was about toxic positivity where you're just kind of in denial and you're just saying, you need to think it away with a positive mindset, but just to know that there is a positive side, believe it or not, to having a diagnosis like this. You even said it just now, because it really made me more aware of myself. It made me take heed of the things that my body needs, how I need to deal with these things internally so that my external circumstances don't dictate, how I feel. So all that is really to say that that's where the PCOS positivity coach came from, because you really need to have a little bit of positivity and work on your mindset, and even the things that you talk about, work on your emotional and mental health to deal with something like that. So that in a nutshell is really where the PCOS positivity coach came from. I know I'm not hearing you.
Are you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, sorry about that. Yeah, I really love how you package this experience and these life experiences into something that could really help to serve other women. I love how you said it's not about thinking it away, and that is completely something I completely believe in, because a lot of times in life we have that belief, oh, it will go away. I just need to write it out. But to me, that is not dealing with it and is not getting the gems underneath what you are really going through. And that is going to birth a whole new thing for you in time to come on your journey. And I really admire how you have taken this and come up with something that could really help to serve other women. And for you guys who don't know, on Sunday, Yashi is also going to be co-hosting the What a Coach Can Do For You webinar with me. And she's going to talk more about the services that she offers in respect of being a PCOS positivity coach. So Yash, before we end, is there anything else you would like to share in respect of PCOS, it being PCOS Awareness Month for the women listening?
Sure, Shrish. There's so many things. So this month is, as Trisha says, it is PCOS Awareness Month, and it's something that I am really glad to be doing things like this in, um, because that is where everything stems from. And anything in life, you have to first kind of be aware of where you are in the situation. And I really only started seeing progress when I took my power back, so to speak. And for many years, PCOS made me feel embarrassed, ashamed. I felt like I did something to bring it upon myself. I felt like I was alone. I had nobody to share about it. Nobody would understand. And when I started sharing more openly about it, I realized that persons, even in my closest circle, were dealing with this, and I had no idea. And we would be friends for years. And then I would see certain things in my family. I'd be like, okay, this is something genetic, and I'll have a better understanding. And while it could be a daunting thing at first, when you have that realization, and then you then can start taking steps to move forward with it. So first of all, you have to definitely get yourself informed. It's so amazing to me every day I learn something new about it. Even though there's so much more that we need to learn and do studies on about it, it has come such a long way from since I was diagnosed. And then the next thing too is when you're open, you find the people that understand, you find your tribe. And that to me has been the most powerful thing about it. It's connected with me with Shresh, even though she hasn't been diagnosed with PCOS. Her situation, to have a beautiful daughter, that connected us because I totally understood where she was coming from. And there was such a power in that type of vulnerability. So if you're dealing with something like that now, I want you to know that there's hope. There are people who understand what you're going through. And I forgot to say that the coaching part came naturally because I realized that people need somebody who's behind the scenes, cheering you on, showing you that, you could do this, you could still have a full life despite something that when people start talking about it, you feel like, oh my God, my life is over. But that's not the case. You can still persevere with it and you can still conquer it. While there's no cure, you can still conquer it. So that's really what I wanted to share.
Yeah, and that is so true. And this is why I always encourage persons to tell your story, because the more you share and the more you accept certain things, is the more doors open for you. And as Yashi said, you find your tribe, you find people who are going through similar things to you, and more doors open for you in respect of the things you can do in your life, maybe that you always wanted to do but thought you couldn't because the belief wasn't there that it was possible. And as Yas said, having a coach makes such a difference. It is like having someone who embodies what you're going through, who has gone through it, and who is able to help you and guide you build that bridge to what you're trying to get over in the most supportive, loving way. Well, Yash has her own way she would describe herself, but you all know those are my words. So, thank you so much for coming and sharing on my Women in Leadership and Business podcast on PCOS, which is something, as Yash said, we don't talk about it, but I know there are lots of persons who are going through this diagnosis and they probably don't know or are not aware of how many other people are going through it. And of course, if you need to reach out to someone, please feel free to reach out to Yashi. I'm going to put back her contact information here, and she would be able to guide you accordingly in respect of the support she can provide. So thank you to all my listeners for watching. I'm not seeing any questions in the chat. So I will see you guys. Remember, on Sunday the 2nd at 4 p.m., we are going to have several coaches, 6 coaches in all, sharing on what they do, how we can support you, sharing the services they offer, and we're going to have some giveaways as well. So make sure and come, and we'll see you there. Bye, everyone.
I